just start a bit of an intro about myself. My name is Peter Levitt. I've been with Peninsula Clean Energy for a little over 4 years now. I'm primarily working on solar and storage projects and all things DERs, load shaping, demand side management. Um, and prior to Peninsula Clean Energy, I was working on solar and storage project development for C&I scale projects with SolarCity and Tesla. Um, So this is actually the second round of this program, our public facility solar and storage program, and excited to tell you folks a little bit more about it. So before that, I'm going to just give an overview about PCE, the program itself, and then we'll jump into the RFP and answer any questions you folks have. Just generally speaking, please stay on mute. I'm not even sure if you can talk out loud, but use the raise hand feature to ask a question. I will address raise hands, and then if there's any other questions, just chat them type them into the box, and I'll get to those as well. The whole webinar will be recorded. It's being recorded right now, and it will be posted on our website. So a little bit about PCE. I'm sure some of you are already familiar, but we are a California Community Choice Aggregator, a CCA, which means we're a not-for-profit, locally led electricity provider. Our mission is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by expanding access to sustainable and affordable energy solutions. The way we do this is, PCE sources the clean electric supply, and then PG&E, the local investor-owned utility, delivers that power to our customers. So it is a power partnership, but PCE is a not-for-profit public agency that is trying to decarbonize our service territory. We have 22 cities and the county of San Mateo comprising our JPA. We have elected council members from each of those organizations on our board. We were launched in 2016. We've got a lot of PPAs under contract. We've got a 1.1 gigawatts of renewable energy PPAs under contract. Those are primarily large front of meter projects, and these are all behind the meter projects we're going to be talking about here. You can see we have investment grade credit rating, so we're a very bankable counterparty. The goals of this program are to accelerate local renewable energy at local public agency facilities. We want to develop a scalable program model and financing and ownership model through that process. Specifically, the way that we're trying to do this, and the reason we think that this program has a lot of value, is that we're trying to reduce the admin and cost burden of public agencies going solar and adding battery storage. We think we can do this by having PCE conduct site assessments and design activities. Generally speaking, PCE is drumming up warm leads for vendors like yourselves to then work on. We think this also will achieve economies of scale through aggregating many different projects together. And we think this will also help with contracting efficiencies as well, because PCE is the primary contracting entity for you folks. And then separately, PCE enters into contracts with each of our customers. And I'll explain all of this in greater detail in a moment. We also think that PCE's financial strength is a big selling point here. We also plan on leveraging the direct pay ourselves for part of the portfolios. So we'll explain all that in a moment. It's worth noting that we're building off of an existing program model that we've worked on previously. So we ran a smaller RFP last year for solar with optional battery storage, and we're under contract for that now. That has 12 sites, 1.7 megawatts of solar, with potential for battery storage in the future. We selected Intermountain Electric as the EPC provider as the winning EPC provider for that portfolio. We signed PPAs, we signed an EPC agreement, we've commenced construction. So all of that is already underway, and we're trying to build off of the success of that program by scaling up this RFP itself. So this one is much larger. There's 2 portfolios of projects, 42 sites, about 16 megawatts of solar, and at least 6.2 megawatt hours of battery storage. You can see all details about where to find the RFP, where to submit questions, And it's worth noting that this is a two-step RFP. So before we send out additional program or portfolio details, we're asking that everybody submit a statement of interest and qualifications. We will vet those on a rolling basis, and then we'll give you more details about the portfolios once we vet your statement of interest and qualifications. But the deadline to submit that is by September 22nd. And, we encourage you all to do that before, so you can get more details about the projects. And then the deadline to submit proposals is October 16th. I'll just pause real quick and note that Dave Freibush from Peninsula Clean Energy is also on the call. Thanks for joining, Dave. Do you want to just jump in and do a quick intro to yourself so I can take a sip of water?
Sure. Happy to provide that service. Yeah, Dave Freibush I was leading the first portfolio of projects that are under construction, and just really excited to be moving this along and having a bigger portfolio here, and hope that we are able to provide the information that you need to submit to be interested in to submit into the consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, so both Dave and I have been on the other side of the table for these kinds of projects, so we understand the level of detail and effort that goes into forming a proposal response, and we're appreciative of everybody on the call here. As far as submitting a statement of interest and qualifications, we tried to make this pretty simple. It's like a short multi-page doc that just gives basic company info. You can see the other components here. I'm not going to delve into that. But as mentioned, it would be prudent to submit those sooner rather than later. We will be reviewing them on a rolling basis so that we can give out project information in lockstep. So a little bit about this portfolio and the level of effort we've put into it. On the site level, we've already done a lot of customer education. We did site walks with 2 engineering firms that we hired. We've established a site plan and solar sizing. And then on the portfolio level, we've had customers some of whom submitted multiple sites, some of whom submitted one site. They provided us kind of like letters of intent through the form of a participation agreement. So we've already secured almost all of those from each of the participating public agencies, and there are about 18 public agencies that are participating in this. From there, we've established final plans with multiple sites for all the customers. And next, what we're hiring for is to have an equipment and installation provider for some of the projects and a financier for some of the projects, who will eventually build all of the systems, install them, and maintain all of them as well. So, this is all to say that we've done a lot of development on the projects to date, and I will explain that in greater detail. But first, I want to delve into the portfolio details. So there are 2 portfolios here, and the RFP spells. I'll just mention RFP touches on all of this, and then some. I just wanted to kind of distill it all because not everybody has time to read a big 25-page RFP. So portfolio A has 33 sites of generally smaller projects. They're all on B1, B6, and B10 rates. There's 4.5 megawatts of solar. There will be battery storage at some of those projects, but right now we're going to be laser focused on executing the solar portion first. That's because these projects are under NEM 2 in California, whereas portfolio B will be under the net billing tariff. We've done a lot of development to date. We've educated customers on all the details. We did site walks. We did solar sizes, or sizing analyses, solar drawings. We have customers that signed participation agreements for each of these. We presented ballpark financial pro formas based off of the EPC costs we expect to get from this RFP, and we've submitted interconnection applications. Under this portfolio, PCE will own all of the equipment. Whereas for portfolio B, we're exploring different financing and ownership models. Those projects are larger in nature. There's 9 sites. They're on larger energy rates, B19 and B20 rates with demand charges. There's 12 megawatts of solar, 6.2 megawatt hours of battery storage, which is a ballpark figure, by the way. And there's been a little bit less development because we just don't have a financial model to present ballpark customer financials yet. So that the customer financial piece and education piece will need to be a part of the proposal for that portfolio. A little bit about the models. So for portfolio A, for all of portfolio A, PCE will be the primary off-taker of an EPC agreement. So we will own all of the equipment, and we're looking for an EPC provider to do turnkey services. Then we will separately enter into child PPAs with each of the facilities in this portfolio. We also leverage direct pay in this, the IRA's direct pay provision. In portfolio B, we're still evaluating if PCE will be the a financier, but most likely we will be leveraging a third-party financing partnership where PCE is the primary off-taker of a parent PPA, and then we enter into subsequently child PPAs for each of the facilities in the portfolio. So we're looking for folks to provide bids for either one of those approaches, either EPC providers giving us your turnkey build cost, or PPA providers giving us your all-in PPA price, or both. And we're open to different kinds of financing partnerships proposed for portfolio B's master PPA arrangement. For each approach, we have minimum requirements. I'm not going to spell this out here. You can also, this is also detailed in the RFP, just wanting to flag that this is the baseline, and we're looking to get vendors who are more qualified than the baseline here. Once you submit your statement of interest and qualifications, then we'll start releasing project packages and additional portfolio details. So the portfolio details will include things like, what are the actual facilities? Who are the customers? What are the system sizes? What's the roof age? Do they have an on-site generator? We've gathered a lot of information from our customers to date. So like I mentioned, these are fairly warm leads. We also have established a draft system layout and solar size, along with a single line diagram. And then we have customer load for each of these facilities, which we will release to qualified bidders as well. But we need an NDA and a customer NDA required, signed prior to releasing this kind of information. And you can find all of those details on the website. I see somebody asked, can the same proposer submit one proposal separately for EPC and master PPA? Yes, that is fine. You can definitely submit multiple. And if we submitted a statement of qualification and signed NDAs for the first portfolio, do we need to re-sign and resubmit for the second round? You don't need a signed NDA. Our NDA should be live and active. And statement of qualifications. Dave, do you recall if we've changed the statement of qualifications at all?
It hasn't really changed. I think we would ask that you just take a quick look at it, make any updates that you might see as necessary, and then just submit it. But hopefully it'll be a really light amount of work. So it's fine to mostly repurpose the one you used before, but we would like to just get that for our records.
Yeah. And then this question was just answered regarding the separate proposals. Separate proposals are definitely welcome. Okay, so key proposal elements, standard stuff here. Pricing is super important, obviously. We will just note that O&M is, we really want to see a plan for O&M. Not just, we'll work on that eventually, but, details around what your plan is. Are you going to be utilizing internal services? Do you have staff that works on O&M internally? Do you subcontract? With whom do you typically subcontract? How do you go about O&M, typically speaking? I'm going to skip over the rest of this stuff just in the interest of time. The proposal form, this is all, the proposal form itself is on the RFP site. So I'm going to also gloss over this, but There are different tabs for the for EPC bids and master PPA bids. Just follow the instructions here, fill out the green cells. Don't change any cells, please, for our convenience, and it should all be pretty straightforward. Submissions can be sent to that email alias. This is also in the RFP. The deadline, again, for the statements of interest and qualification is September 22nd, and the deadline for submitting your proposal is October 16th. Once we get proposals, PCE will select a shortlist. We will, based off the proposals we see, determine the preferred ownership structure for Portfolio B. So again, that will either look like PCE owning and financing the equipment ourselves, or more likely pursuing a third-party financial partnership with a master PPA provider. Then once we make that determination, we will interview the shortlist and select 1 to 2 firms to build the whole portfolio or both portfolios. Then we will enter into contract negotiations with the selected firms as well as with our customers. So again, we will be doing contract negotiations at the same time on the vendor side and on the customer side. So that's it regarding the details of the RFP and the different portfolios. I wanted to build in a lot of time to really get into the nitty gritty on any details you folks might have. So if there's any parts of the presentation you wanted me to delve into in greater detail, or anything to that effect, please jump on in. Dave, I just unmuted you. Dave Morrow. Are you able to speak, Dave Morrow? There we go.
I'm seeing him, it's still muted there.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep. Yep.
Hey, I was wondering, Peter, if you could, is there a way to get this PowerPoint presentation that you just provided? I couldn't write down stuff fast enough.
Yeah, totally, Dave. It will be shared right after this call on our website, on the RFP site.
On the RFP site?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know we glossed through some things pretty quickly. I wanted to prioritize getting to questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, I just unmute. I gave you the chance to unmute.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. I was wondering if the Peninsula Clean Energy has the intent to wrap in any roofing upgrades or additional site needs that might not be covered by the ITC in the PPA, and if any of that work has already been done in terms of understanding the roof states and expected upgrade requirements.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So we did filter out a number of sites. We filtered out sites that our customers sent to us based off of a number of criteria. The buildings need to be owner occupied. The roofs need to be relatively recently redone or planned to be redone on the customer's dime within the next 6 to 12 months. So really no re-roofing work should be baked in. There might be some minor stuff like maybe some tree removal or anything, some small stuff might be baked in to the project scope. But overall, not a lot of substantial non-ITC eligible scope should be planned. Dave, any other comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly welcome a collaborative relationship with us and with the customer if there is, something that in a site walk you think, hey, this should really be done. But I think we do want to be careful about not trying to include too much into the cost that would go into their PPA price, because we're kind of doing that in advance. So So I think we would, we'd want to talk it over and explore the options, but that shouldn't really be baked into the main, the main project.
Does that address your question, Chris?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like hearing the filter approach. If there's anything else that came to mind in terms of things that disqualified a site, that's helpful for us to know that it's already been sort of thought of. I'm wondering on the level of detail that we're going to receive. Are we going to receive site layouts per the interconnections of the portfolio A? Are we going to receive pre-vetted system layouts, or is that going to be something that we'll need to do in the process of the RFP?
That's a good question, Chris. So yes, we have site layouts for all of portfolio A and B. The site, the solar sizing that stems from the site layouts for portfolio A was included as part of the interconnection application submittal. That system size was submitted as part of the interconnection application submittal. But still, there's an opportunity. PG&E allows for a one-time modification of the system size once interconnection is submitted. So that is permitted. We expect that the chosen vendor will do some iteration with the customer on the ideal system size details based off of some consultancy with the customer, and then that will form the final interconnection application capacity, and will be the basis for the interconnection agreement capacity as well. For portfolio B, we haven't submitted interconnection applications because we didn't have the final system size for the battery storage. Those will be under net billing tariff. Those will be under the net billing tariff, and as such, we need the final system size for solar and storage to be iterated on with the customer, so that those sizes can be included in the application. You had asked a question, Chris, about other filters that we applied. We included a minimum system size of 30 kilowatts based off of load and space constraints. So all projects are right around a minimum of 30 kilowatts. Like I said, owner occupancy, it was required, so there's no third-party leases going on here. We tried, for carport sites, we made sure that there's no planned use of the parking lots over the next 20 years. And then roof ages, we tried to limit it to roofs that are younger than 10 years, as in, a major re-roof or a new building of about 10 years or less, or a planned upgrade happening in the next 6 to 12 months.
For trenching requirements, are the hosts expecting resurfacing of the lot, or just patches?
We haven't gotten to that level of detail with the customers.
Okay, no expectations have been set. Okay,
That's right. Yeah. Any other questions, Chris?
the ESS for portfolio A sounds like that would come in another RFP process.
No, that can be, so yeah, we can answer this question that was in the chat as well, submitted. So yeah, we build costs for battery storage for portfolio A can be provided in this proposal. And that will, eventually we will build batteries out of that proposal, out of this RFP for that portfolio. So it's just that the sizes are TBD. We don't know the use case really. They're on rates that don't have demand charges, so they're not going to be as economically viable. So we still need to figure out the use case.
There's no expectation of resiliency for any of these member groups.
A lot of them have expressed a strong desire for backup power, but we haven't presented them financial figures for them to expand on the basis of, there is an expectation of resiliency, but we haven't presented anything to them regarding like the actual costs of battery storage yet.
Is it a requirement to include in portfolio A the ESS? Because it sounds like that's
No,
like 3 years out. Like, why would
that's
anybody
right.
want to tell you a 3-year price when it's likely to change? And there's like no crystal ball on ESS right now.
Yep, totally. No, not a requirement.
Does it
If
help with the response to like
I
yeah, it
think
seems like
I think
indicative.
we would favor vendors who have battery storage development experience for both portfolios because we would prefer not to run another RFP for the portfolio projects that we're working on for portfolio A as well. But it's the we're like I said, we're laser focused on executing the solar projects first
Cool.
for portfolio A.
And it's either or both for portfolio A and B in terms of this response.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Dave,
I guess,
oh,
yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead, Chris. Oh,
My one last question would be just like, are there any lessons learned from the first round portfolio that are worth kind of sharing with this group? Things that are maybe not fully covered or apparent that worth kind of expounding on?
yeah, that's a good question. I have some thoughts, but Dave, I welcome yours as well.
Why don't you go first, and I will add color since.
Yeah, well, one thing is I do think that our ability to drum up leads was effective. We had 15 projects going into the previous RFP for the last portfolio in round one, and we ended up signing 12 PPAs with 12 different sites and an EPC agreement for the associated capacity with those 12 projects. So if we expect the same level of attrition, then we might end up with maybe 35-ish projects out of the 42 that we have here, which means that we've done a pretty solid job of vetting projects up front. And so basically there's merit to that approach. One. Two, I would say that we really need to know the approach to operations and maintenance on the projects well in advance of signing any EPC agreement. So we want to know how, do you plan on just tossing it over the fence to an O&M firm, or are you going to partner with the firm to seek out O&M pricing and bake that into your response? So yeah, we want a sophisticated O&M approach. Anything else, Dave, that you'd expand on? I'm sure you've other thoughts.
No, I think that's good. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm surprised at how well Portfolio 1 has gone in terms of the designs we originally developed being the ones that are moving forward in most cases, and where things have changed was due to information we didn't, the customer hadn't either made us aware of, or it's sort of just what you might expect, when you have a bunch of 12 projects that some stuff comes up. So I would say, I was concerned that we were doing the designs, the pluses, minuses, the pros of us doing the designs in advance is to try and winnow out projects that don't work, and to have, to Peter's point about us having been on the other side of this, we don't want to be bringing projects to you all that are going to fall through. So the ones that we started, Peter mentioned we had 15 projects in the first round, 12 of them went through. The ones that didn't come through were not because the designs weren't good. It was because the city, when they got to the point of signing the contract, realized for whatever reason they couldn't move forward on it. But I'm surprised at how well it has worked, and that's really my takeaway. We were hoping, it was a kind of an experiment to see if we do all this design work in advance, do the interconnection work in advance, does it actually help get us to the construction piece? And I think the answer has been, clearly that it has.
I guess there's something to learn in those sites that didn't accept the PPA at the final round. Can you talk a little bit more about what happened there? If there's any lessons learned that could be addressed in the future, any similarities to the portfolio that are coming up here that there might be similar blockage?
Right, sure. So, the way that we had structured the first portfolio was we had provided them pricing. We had provided them the form of agreement. So they had the agreement and indicative pricing. I apologize. We provided them our, kind of ballpark, where we thought pricing would come in. But we didn't say this was the pricing because we didn't actually have the bids, right? So we couldn't give them the final PPA. So once we got pricing, they'd already signed off on all the terms of the agreement, and so we then provided pricing. Everybody was happy with the pricing. That wasn't an issue. There were some obscure legal questions that one city raised that nobody else had, and in the end, they just didn't, they didn't move forward with signing it. We couldn't force them to sign it. They didn't object on the, on the cost. Another city, we had been talking with them for 2 years about the project, had been very clear that, look, if you're planning to renovate this building or any of your buildings or major construction, don't go with us, wait until you do that, then come back in. And they had told us, yeah, sure, we're going to move ahead with this. And then at the last minute, they were like, you know what, we might be knocking this building down to redo it. So, I mean, it's stuff like that, we're in the position of, we've gotten to them to the point of having a PPA to sign. They have the pricing, but they still have to sign it. And so there is some risk that a city, when it comes down to actually putting the name on the dotted line, says, actually no. And we do our best to mitigate it. I think there'll be actually less risk in this round because we already have all these other projects that have moved forward and are moving forward successfully. So. Sorry, long-winded answer, but the short of it is, it has been stuff not at all related to the design or the pricing. It's been other things that we did our best to mitigate, but couldn't fully mitigate. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks for the questions, Chris. Okay, so let's get to some of these others. Let me first address the timeline question. So Robert Tomasia, you mentioned the timeline is going to be aggressive. So yeah, I mean, I definitely welcome you to go off mute and expand on what might be complicated about submitting a proposal within that time. In my experience, 6 weeks is pretty standard even for a large portfolio, but yeah, I'm open to feedback here. I will note that we've done a lot of the development work already, as I've mentioned a few times now. And so we think that the system layouts are going to be fairly accurate. Those have taken into consideration the load constraints, space constraints that we got from a site walk, and the customer's input on how they plan on using the rooftop or the carport where we're planning on mounting. So, we're not asking vendors to do any site walks for this yet. The chosen vendor will have a chance to go out and do site walks and get additional project details, but we've already done that once, so that we can, provide you're not designing a system from scratch. It's kind of like a design build job for the portfolio. You don't want to okay, yeah, understood on everything. And Robert, if you want to go off mute, you can raise your hand and then I will take you off mute. Oh, okay, I see. Thanks. Thanks, Robert. You can go off mute now.
Thanks, there, Peter. Yeah, I just seems 6 weeks.
Oh, you are muted for some reason right now, Robert.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, I just I know you did a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the preliminary, which we can dive right in on to help accelerate that process. But 6 weeks is just 6 weeks, 45 sites. It's still a lot of work, but I'm not complaining. If that's what it is, that's what it is. And then also are you able to pick and choose within the portfolio of sites and bid on? Obviously, it's not going to be one site. Obviously, that's not going to do you any good. But if it was maybe 50 to 70% of the sites, would you still be eligible? Or how do you guys view that?
Yeah, we're open to that, especially if there's rationale as to why certain sites are proposed. But we really would prefer one vendor for at least each portfolio in total, so that we're not splitting up the contracting and all the admin work. So
Okay,
it's
so
preferred to have one vendor work on everything.
okay, so if for whatever time constraint within our organization, if we've got other things in front of it, we could say, look, we're just going to bid on everything in portfolio one
Okay.
rather than
Right. Yeah,
piecemeal.
that is fine. You can definitely submit a proposal to that effect, and especially if there's rationale as to, you know, maybe any efficiencies that might be gained by focusing on only certain types of projects.
Okay, that's
You know,
fair.
I would encourage that because,
Okay.
you know, as I mentioned, we are hoping to work with one counterparty for each portfolio at least, or one counterparty with the whole with both portfolios.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Answered that live. I don't know what MBE, WE, WVBE. I might know who these things are if they're not an acronym. Do you know what these are, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's minority business, women-owned
Oh,
business, diversity. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, thanks, Wayne. So we do detail what our workforce policy is in the RFP. We have public policies that are linked to in our RFP on our website via our RFP. So you can I'm not going to speak to those in greater detail. You can just check them out right in the RFP itself. Hope that helps. I see somebody else tend to agree our company may need some extra time considering the number of sites. I mean, if that's really a concern, please do send us an email letting us know that it's just impossible. If there's a plurality of, you know, if there's a lot of folks that just can't do this because of the time frame, we'll consider extending. I'd like to just, you know, stay the course and get bids by October 16th. But, you know, if it's a serious concern, then please do send us an email. Portfolio B, what is the battery use case? I like this question. Is full resiliency with islanding, critical load panels, economic savings? Does the battery EMS need to integrate with PC control dispatch based on use case? Is battery augmentation planned, expected? Okay, thank you. So for portfolio B, the battery use case is primarily for demand charge management. And I'll get to you, Robert, in just a moment. You still have your hand up. I think you have another question. So, it's demand charge management primarily in the 4 to 9 p.m. window. So the way demand charges are structured on B19 and B20 rates in California is you have a peak load. Your peak load is your highest demand charge. So that's from the 4 to 9 p.m. window. So we looked at what is each customer in portfolio B's lowest usage in that period, and then we size the battery to cover that amount of capacity for every hour of the day, or every hour in that window for throughout the whole year. More or less, that's the approach. There might be little nuances that, you know, I know, Dave, maybe it's 4 hours dispatch instead of 5 hours, but that's the, yeah. You want to jump in, Dave?
No, I mean that's basically it. And, you know, caveat being it's a large battery. I mean, so I'm not, you know, and we're not, you know, we're there was a question that, you know, in the chat that that I typed an answer to, but, you know, basically said, hey, it's complicated. And, you know, I think we'll be the first to agree with you that it is complicated, especially under the net billing tariff. You know, figuring out exactly how to right size the system to provide the services that we'd like to provide, which, as Peter mentioned, are, you know, effectively bill management as well as backup. And, you know, to the question that's in the chat about, you know, whether it's critical load or full islanding, it's really going to depend on the site. I think.
Yeah, so the vendor chosen for portfolio B will have to work with PCE and our customers. There's only a few customers for portfolio B. They'll have to work with those customers to identify the different sizing options, and then, based off of those conversations, we'll move forward with the size that's chosen. So there is some consultancy that will go into the portfolio B proposal and that scope of work. Certainly we'll want to look at demand charge management, and those customers will also be interested in backup power and islanding. And PCE will want to be able to, we want to know what our options are regarding our ability to utilize the battery for our own market participation pathways. And that will be part of the conversation with the vendor that we choose. So if the person who asked this question or anybody else has additional questions based off of what we just mentioned for the battery storage use case, please feel free to jump on in. But I'm going to keep moving on. Are we seeking a financing partner, non-ITC participation? So for portfolio A, we're not seeking a financing partner. We're just looking for a design build job, an EPC partner. We will monetize the ITC through direct pay. For portfolio B, as mentioned, we're looking at multiple financing models, and one of them will be a master PPA where the proposer, the vendor, brings the ITC along with them. So we will, in that case, obviously, we won't be monetizing ITC because we won't be owning the equipment or financing of the equipment. I see follow-up on battery use case. Are we expecting to tap into the battery capacity for wholesale savings? So yeah, this is going to be a conversation. We don't have a firm answer to this right now. We will prioritize the use of the battery for demand charge management. But then, if to the extent that PCE can get extra value out of it, we will seek to do that. We will look at, honestly, the most valuable use case here is demand charge management. So we recognize that, wholesale market participation with behind the meter resource like this is not going to be as economically viable. And so we will likely prioritize demand charge management, and then we will look at other options as far as PCE utilizing the asset. We use load modification is one pathway for PCE to receive extra value, and we will evaluate the opportunity to do that. But this will be part of the conversation for sure. I see, Dave, you're answering the IOU flex demand questions.
Actually, no. I think that's a better one for you to answer.
Okay. What are the restrictions with flex demand participation? I think this is talking about flex market and market access program. So currently, battery storage resources are not eligible for flex market nor market access, the market access program that PG&E is running. So we will not look at bringing these storage resources into a program, into one of those programs. We are definitely open to hearing from vendors regarding if there are other either supply side integrated or load side integrated demand response programs or any other permanent load shaping programs that you would suggest these batteries participate in. But otherwise, like I said, primary use case is demand charge management. Hope that answers. Seeing no other questions in the chat and seeing nobody else's hands raised. So, I'll stick around for another 10 minutes in case folks want to just maybe comb through the RFP and see if any other questions pop up. I see, is there a PPA form preferred, or is the assumption we will use our own paper? For portfolio B, you can bring your own PPA form. We do not have a PPA contract drummed up. Yep. Great. Seeing no additional questions, like I said, I'm going to stick around for another 10 minutes or so. If folks want to come through the RFP and see if you have any other questions, I'll just be hanging out. Yeah, and thanks everybody for all the effort. And I know that a lot of this these bids can take a lot of work. So, okay, I see Chris. You have your hand up again. Want to go ahead?
Hey, yeah. I'm sorry. I was multitasking. On the last thing that Demoban asked about, there's not going to be a predefined PPA structure for portfolio A.
For portfolio A, there is no PPA except for us, well, the one between PCE and our customers. So that will be just a straight EPC contract.
And then the arrangement between the contractor and PCE is a CapEx deal.
Yes, that's right. For portfolio A, yes. For portfolio B, there will be a master PPA. That is an option. For portfolio B, there's different financing options. PCE is still evaluating if we will finance those projects on our own balance sheet, but that's unlikely. It's more likely that we will pursue a master PPA for portfolio B, and you can bring your own PPA for that proposal.
Got it.
And then Mick Freeman, I see for an equipment only portfolio B bid, would PCE be interested in non-direct pay / non-ITC master PPA funding partner? If PCE is going to finance the equipment, finance the portfolio B on our own balance sheet, we will not need a funding partner. But if you're going to propose a master PPA, you will need to bring your own financier. I hope that answers the question directly, Nick. I think it does. Basically, if we're funding things on our own balance sheet, we're utilizing the direct pay provision from the IRA.
So sorry to reiterate this. For portfolio B, there's basically two options. One, PCE evaluates a balance sheet option, and two, PCE evaluates a master PPA option. Is that right?
For portfolio B, that's correct.
Yeah, for portfolio B. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
But not for portfolio A. There's no chance of a finance option. Okay, great.
No, we are going to own those.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be fair. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. One last question on the the net billing tariff. Has PCE made any alteration to the structure and compensation around net billing that might differ from what we'd see from PG&E?
Thanks, Chris. That's a good question. We haven't made a final determination, but we are leaning towards not making any substantial departure. We haven't finalized that yet, but we likely will not. We will likely adopt the same net value billing tariff structure for the generation side of the bill.
Is there a possibility of modifying that for the portfolio B customers?
That's very unlikely.
Okay.
It's a lot of squeeze for not a lot of juice.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna, just to be fair, I'm going to put you back on mute, Chris.
Yep.
Just raise your hand again if you want. Okay, Nick, I saw that. Oh, Nick, you're raising your hand. I'm just gonna. Yeah, there we go. You can unmute now, Nick.
Yeah. Hi, Peter. Thanks for taking the call. What I'm asking is if your portfolio B option where you're doing the PPA, you're the off taker and you're the owner, would you be interested in a finance partner who's not interested in the ITC, would not take the credit, would just look for payments through the equipment payment?
Right. Yeah. The two options here, Nick, are going to be either PCE owns all of the equipment in portfolio B and brings the direct pay provision, in which case we won't need any financier. That's
Thank
option
you.
one for portfolio B. And then the other option for portfolio B is we are looking for a full suite financing of financing, CapEx and ITC rolled together into a master PPA. And that's all for portfolio B. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Let's see here. Yeah, appreciate everyone's time. Like I said, gonna keep hanging out here until the end of the hour. And if you have any other questions, you can always feel free to reach out over email as well. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the vote of confidence. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this program. I think it makes a lot of sense, and this is a very large, couple of portfolios. So I'm hoping it's compelling to you all, folks. Chris, go ahead.
Remind me for the first round, the one that's already contracted, that was a full service PPA solution
That was an EPC agreement that we signed with Intermountain Electric.
with no financing, full balance sheet.
Full balance sheet. We're pursuing direct pay for that one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have separate customer PPAs that we enter into for each of the sites. How many bidders were there in the last round's portfolio? I think that's like a public records request. I don't think that we answer that type of question on this type of webinar. But if you email us or if you need to make a public records request ask, then those are the pathways to getting that information. Regarding portfolio B, how will you determine whether you use your capital or a financier? That's a really good question. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Yama. We are currently making that determination. And we have a board subcommittee, a subcommittee of our board of directors is providing input on how PCE will be utilizing its capital. As mentioned a couple times now on the call, we are most likely, very, very likely leaning away from owning all of the resources in portfolio B because it's a lot of solar to own on our balance sheet. So we will likely finance all of that through a master PPA. That is the most likely pathway. All right, just a few more minutes here, and then we will hop off. will we require bonding, completion guarantees or performance guarantees? Dave, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, in short, there will be some type of completion bond or security of some sort we're looking at, and we are looking for performance guarantees for the solar, and we want to understand what the battery performance. I mean, there's going to be some type of warranty, or we want to understand exactly what at least is warranted, and I think we specify a minimum performance we're looking for. I think it was 1 cycle a day. That we would need that to be guaranteed in some fashion. And just, I guess, brief follow up on that. I think that the solar performance and the battery performance, I mean, I think we're, solidly in the, I guess, as far as there's an industry standard on this, within an industry standard on those, we're not looking for something unusual, but we are looking for for a basic guarantee.
All right, folks, we are right around the hour. Thank you all for the time. Thank you, Robert, for the kind note. Yeah, appreciate everyone's time. Looking forward to getting some badass bids. Please reach out if you have any questions. We will be taking questions up until the 22nd. And then we'll also be trying to publish the list of questions that we get from everybody on a rolling basis, as well as accepting statements of interest from everybody on a rolling basis.
One thing I'd add, and I actually wish we'd said it to everyone, just want to emphasize the importance of getting your statement of interest in as soon as possible, because that will give you the most time to actually work with the full project packages. So please, it's not a heavy lift. We're not looking to be difficult about it. We just want to make sure that we're sending this information out to qualified entities. So please just get that in. Thanks.
Great.